No matter how much the Twitter shills try to gaslight you that the Star Wars Acolyte project is an overwhelming success, and oh my gosh, we need more of it. Well, the results are in, and you cannot argue with the facts. Star Wars The Acolyte is an unmitigated failure. Hello, my friends, and welcome to The Pondering. I am very excited to be with you today. I am the real-life fake wizard, and today we are going to be talking about The Acolyte, something that I don't want to talk about anymore. I hate this show with a fury, with a passion. I despise this show's existence and the amount of damage that it has done. For a show that is so boring and does so little, it does a fantastic job at devaluing the entire franchise that has come before it. But we are not going to waste any time. Let us get into the data that has been presented to us coming from that Park Place. The Acolyte finale viewership, 41% below Ahsoka's finale and over 50% below Andor's finale. Holy shit! Data from Nielsen reveals that the Acolyte's finale viewership was 41% worse than Ahsoka's finale and over 50% less than Andor's finale. Nielsen reported that the Acolyte's viewership for the show's finale hit only 335 million minutes watched when it debuted on July 16th. The show placed 10th on Nielsen's original chart behind The Boys, Cobra Kai, Love Island, Vikings, The Bear, Homicide Los Angeles, Evil Receiver, and Bridgerton. So to be clear, this is not all shows on television. This is just original streaming programming. So you wouldn't find NCIS or Big Bang Theory on here, right? Of note, the show's 2-episode premiere had 488 million minutes watched according to Nielsen. That means the total minutes watched between the 2-episode premiere and the season finale declined over 30%. And remember, Nielsen does not just factor in individuals who watch the finale, it factors in all episodes watched for the entire week. That means it factors in individuals who binge watch the entire season. That is a very interesting note. So even with individuals binging the entire 8 episodes of the show still had less viewership than the 2-episode premiere. One can only conclude that the show saw people rapidly abandon this show after watching the first or second episode, which is the most logical place to bail out, because by episode 3, and there was a lot of hype around episode 3 and the thread of destiny, there was no reason to continue watching post that point. The show does not get any better, it just gets worse. In fact, other data points to this being the case. The show fell off Nielsen's charts in the 3rd week when the 4th episode titled Day debuted, which is something that we covered here on this channel when that happened. As can be seen below, the Acolyte's viewership for the week of June 17th to the 23rd, 2024 was below 298 million minutes watched, which is the minutes watched for the 10th ranked King of Collectibles, The Golden Touch. Yes, that is exactly what we covered when that happened. For a Star Wars show to not even be in the top 10 of programming, it's mind-baffling. Disney bought Star Wars for $4 billion, and they have not turned an ROI on it. And now, because the programming at Lucasfilm is so poor, they're losing to Love Island. When comparing the show to more recent Star Wars releases, one can see just how poorly the show performed. As noted by X-User, now it's known the show's finale performed worse than every single live-action Star Wars show released on Disney Plus before it, including Ahsoka, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Book of Boba Fett, and The Mandalorian. So The Mandalorian is basically unmatched. Everybody, including normies, watch The Mandalorian. Everything else is a little more segmented to the higher echelon fans, let's say. Ahsoka's finale back in October 2023 saw its viewership hit 575 million minutes watched. The Acolyte's finale viewership is 41% less than Ahsoka's. Now look, I'm a big critic of Ahsoka. I loathe the Ahsoka show. I love Ahsoka the character, but that show was a boring slogfest of nothing happening. It was a mystery box piece of crap show that hypes into get ready for more seasons and more movies. That show is unsatisfying as fuck. And I would say because of that, it certainly has not helped the Acolyte achieve great results when the Acolyte is just as mystery boxy as Ahsoka is. Similarly, Andor's finale brought in 674 million minutes watched. The Acolyte's viewership is over 50% less than Andor's. Now, Andor is an interesting circumstance because Andor, from what people say, is a very good show. I have not watched it yet. I will watch it. I will watch it when season 2 drops. See, Andor is an interesting circumstance. They told us that it was only going to be 2 seasons and it was going to directly tie into Rogue One. So I said, well, I hate unsatisfying endings. Unsatisfying endings keep me up at night. So I decided I'm not going to watch Andor yet. I'm going to wait for season 2 and I'm going to binge it and I'm going to love every second of it. I'm going to get such a dopamine hit from a constant binge watch. But everyone says that Andor is really good, but unfortunately, not a lot of people give a shit about Andor, the character. So no one tuned in for it at first, and yet it still beat Acolyte by 50%. It gets even worse when you compare it to Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett, 2 legacy characters that even normies know the names of. Mind you, Obi-Wan Kenobi had 860 million minutes watched for the week of its finale. The Acolyte's viewership is over 60% less than Obi-Wan Kenobi. Similarly, the Book of Boba Fett viewership saw 885 million minutes watched. The Acolyte was over 62% less than Book of Boba Fett. Now, what I'm curious about, and maybe we'll have to look it up, is what is the budget for Obi-Wan Kenobi and what is the budget for the Book of Boba Fett? Because we know that the Acolyte had a budget of around $180 million after the tax breaks. Prior to tax breaks, it was over $200 million to make, and it has not created a penny in profit. The Mandalorian Season 3 had 1.012 billion minutes watched. The Acolyte performed 66% worse than that. Regardless of what you think about Mandalorian Season 3, I thought it was kind of lame compared to the first 2 seasons, which were pretty solid. A lot of people like Mando and Grogu. There is interest there. Those are strong characters. Interest-wise, a lot of people tuned in for that. As pointed out by now, it's known these piss-poor viewership numbers for The Acolyte explain why showrunner Leslie Headland was begging people to watch the show and take part in social media campaigns in order to get a second season greenlit, which she did. But interestingly enough, she did it very early on. She didn't wait for it to end. It's almost like she knew after the first 2 or 3 episodes that there's a glaring problem here. Every week after an episode premiered, Leslie Headland would go and hit up the Access Media Market and go and do interviews and give exclusive inside scoops on what was happening in each episode. You would think that this would help the cause, but instead it didn't. It actually hurt the cause because she poked holes in her own plot. She was bringing up things that even she didn't know the answers to. So now the audience has questions, and the person who's supposed to have all the answers doesn't have all the answers. So when that happens, well, none of it matters then. So even if you're a diehard fan of The Acolyte, you can't give me solid foundational answers as to what is going on. Why? Because the showrunners don't know what's going on. Now it's known, wrote on X, The Acolyte Episode 8 finale makes the charts and also explains why its showrunner resorted to begging. Headland did indeed beg following the release of the finale. Quote, shifting gears, one of the most popular questions that I got to ask you from Twitter was, what do fans need to do to ensure that we get a season 2, ? End quote. She responded, quote, truly any online support and love you could send the show. It's a little tricky because of the way that the internet works, but if you enjoyed the show and you want to see more of that story, any support that you can give the show on social media platforms would be super helpful. She continued, quote, sending love to the cast too. You see what Hayden Christensen went through? He's getting the love now. But give the love now if you enjoyed the performances. Even if you were kind of like whatever on the show. If you enjoyed the performances, get on their social media and let them know that you love them, or that you support them, or that their performances were great, end quote. You would think if you just, made a good show, you wouldn't have to do this. You say what you want about the Acolyte. Leslie Headland has been on record to say that she was inspired by things in her personal life that she put into the Acolyte. She said this, okay? She was inspired by the relationship with her sister. This isn't an indie art house film project for you to experiment with. This was freaking Star Wars. There's nearly 50 years of history here. I don't care about your little therapy session. And you know what? Neither do the other customers. I think many of the performances from the actors were okay, or at least for some of them. The Stranger Chimere was awesome. Master Soul was outstanding. He had to learn English to perform this role. But you look at somebody like Amanda Stenberg's acting, and it was wooden and boring, and I hated both of the characters. And I know a lot of people that watch this did too. I feel nothing for these characters. They whine and complain, and I know that's not entirely the actor's fault. There's a script problem there as well, but it certainly didn't help this show along at all. So I understand going and saying like, hey, hey, take care of my cast. So with that in mind, there's actually a little bit of I almost want to say honorable thing of Leslie Headland saying, hey, don't slight my cast because this show's not performing well. So maybe that's okay. But the begging the audience when you yourself don't have answers on the questions you opened up, I have no respect for you. I just don't. I don't respect it. I don't like it. This show was painful to get through. I felt like I was depressed for a month after it ended. Encourage your friends to watch the show. A lot of my work has been word of mouth. We were talking about the review bombing, so just telling people don't pay attention to the IMDb score, end quote. Funny, because a few weeks prior to this interview is a little old, this isn't new, you said you didn't care about review bombing, that it doesn't impact the overall results. In fact, there's been other mainstream journalists who've said review bombing doesn't actually accomplish anything. So why does it matter? Why does it matter? Also, can you prove to me that this is actually review bombing? Everybody likes to throw the term review bombing around, but there's no proof that it's actually happening. But let's play the other side. Let's say it is. Would we not then also say that the critics' scores are inflated on many projects? If an audience member can say they don't like something, and that is considered review bombing, would a critic who doesn't like something but gives it a positive result be something like review inflating? These are not things I have direct answers to. I think the entire system in and of itself is flawed. In an interview with Nerdist, Headland indicated the show had not received a season 2 green light. She was asked, quote, "Do you know if you're definitely getting a season 2? She said, "No, I have no idea." Well, not that I have no idea. I would say there are conversations, and I don't know when that will happen. I don't know when that decision will be made. Myself and other channels talk about the numbers here. Star Wars is in a very difficult place. There are reports from Marvel that they are trying to course correct after things have not performed financially well. There are reports about Pixar that they are changing things inside of Pixar because things have not performed financially well. Star Wars is in the same predicament of there's been a few years where it has not performed well, but are they learning from these mistakes? Are they trying to make changes? Are they trying to give fans what they want? Don't know. I don't think so. But it's not producing any money. It's ridiculously expensive, and it's polarizing more fans to be willing to spend any more money on Disney product entirely. Like, it's not even just Star Wars. There are people like myself who refuse to pay for anything else Disney because of what one other company inside of Disney is doing that I don't agree with. I am a Star Wars fan before I am an Avengers fan, personally speaking, right? So if I see that Walt Disney Company constantly taking a massive shit on the thing that I love, I'm not going to support them in other places. And I know there are many others that think like that as well. And you yourself might be the flip side. You might be, well, they destroyed the Avengers, so I'm not going to support Star Wars. And people are learning to speak with their wallets. So you want to talk about getting a season 2, it's like not nearly enough people liked this and watched it to warrant giving you any more power to do anything else with Star Wars. A rumor from WDW Pro also indicated that Lucasfilm has no plans to develop a second season of the show. Yes, shout out to WDW Pro, I've been listening to for some time. We've talked once or twice. He's a nice guy. There are good people at that park place. What do you make of these viewership numbers? Well, John, in that park place, I'll give you my answer. And I've already said it earlier in this video. I felt actually physically depressed every week that I had to watch this shit. Now, why? And you may say that's a little extreme. It's like, well, Star Wars is my thing. My entire home is decorated in Star Wars stuff. Like, that is part of me. I care, okay? I care. So for watching this was incredibly difficult. So no, I'm not surprised that these viewing numbers are low. I am not surprised that Lucasfilm continues to take L after L after L. But here's my advice for the people that would watch this higher up. Make something that's satisfying in one session, whether that be a movie or a show or a video game or whatever it is. Make something that doesn't have to mystery box, that doesn't require more seasons to get to something. Let us just watch one thing, and that's good enough. You can do sequels on it later. You can continue the stories in unique ways if you try hard enough. We don't need this film cut into 8 slices and then stretched to death to take up runtime. I hear Andor is very good because every 3 episodes feels like a completed story. That's great. I look forward to watching Andor. But the Ahsoka was mystery box crap. The Acolyte was mystery box crap. Obi-Wan Kenobi did a little bit of damage to the lore, if I'm not mistaken. The fight at the end was kind of ridiculous with throwing boulders at each other and the boulders just turned to dust. The only thing that Obi-Wan Kenobi did right was that little bit of dialogue between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. And like that little bit, which was very cool to see, I could have gone without, you know, because the amount of other things that you did more damage than that one scene did do. Boba Fett, you turned him into a wimp in his own show. What is the deal with the Power Rangers that were in that show? That was kind of terrible. Mandalorian season 3 was weak. It was weak, and it felt boring week to week. I mean, that episode on Coruscant with the Doctor and the Imperial Remnant agent and I don't remember their names. I mean, they're great actors, but for the love of God, that was boring, and it felt like it didn't go to anything. It felt like it didn't contribute to anything. But this conversation could carry on for hours. So, my friends, we gather here today at the funeral for the Acolyte as we finally lay it to rest. Hopefully, there's nothing else to come out of this piece of crap show ever again. I don't want to cover it anymore. I just want to get on with my life. But with that, let me know, what did you think about these viewership numbers on the Acolyte? My friends, I want to thank you for joining me for this pondering episode. If you would, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you didn't like what I had to say, well, I really don't care, because the Acolyte is crap and you're not going to change my mind on it. But may the contrived thread of destiny be with you, and until next time, cancel Disney Plus. Just do it. Thanks.